Greetings and salutations, brave hearts, mahogany majestic muses, poetic justices, vineyard creatives, coach mad hatters, eye crimson velvet VIPs, and intrapersonal developmental nation. I am your host, Coach T. Marie, also known as Skylar Indigo Inc., and this evening segment is titled Walking the Black Mile Self Mystery. And I pause because I'm in the habit of saying self mastery. But before we can even get to mastery level, there is an entire sea of mystery that we must tread and have the courage to interface with. With that being said, it is July 2nd, 2019 at 7:27 p.m. I have the urge to say 2017. My mind is stuck in 2017. At the threshold of eclipse season, I know that I am personally being provoked to reflect on the year 2017 specifically, as well as the year 2000 and 2007, with Saturn being my sun sign, the ruler of my sun sign, and it being in its 3-year visit with Capricorn, and all of these things are going on. I find myself a bit baffled these days. Now, I'm happy to report that I'm not I'm no longer baffled in blindness. Clarity has begun to unfold and revealed itself. So I'm happy about that. But the baffle still continues. And I think me personally being baffled is incorporated in my marathon. It's going to be with me for the long haul. And so it's been on my heart from early this morning to sit down and record a piece involving the mystery of self and some of the challenges that may come along with one's courtship with self. Many that I've spoken with who are in the midst of this journey of getting to know thyself is discovering that it is easier said than done. It is very trendy for us to so quickly say, know thyself, know thyself, know thyself. Get with yourself, align with your star player. Like it's easy to say that, and it's so sassy and you know, we're quick to say it, but do we truly know what that means? With that being the leading question, I've began doing some investigation. Mainly because getting to know myself has, yeah, riddled beyond belief. One moment I figure I do know myself and I'm quite pleased with myself. And then within a 24-hour turnaround, I have this weight on my shoulders. I'm perplexed about the past. And I have the damnedest understanding about who the fuck I am and what I'm doing here. So I'm going to open up this segment with two very important pieces that I refer to on a regular basis. The first one is Brene Brown's book, Daring Greatly. And right at the beginning of the book, She outlines a piece of Theodore Roosevelt's speech, Citizen in a Republic, also known as The Man in the Arena, which I like to call Exhibit A. From the moment I heard it, it resonated with me mainly because of my stance in Chiron. And I'll unpack that further on in the segment, especially since Chiron was heavy on my heart this morning. That provoked me actually to dig a little deeper and see what I can find out as a result. Chiron is known as the wounded healer, also known as the zodiac of Sagittarius. And my mom and my twin brothers, as well as my best friend and a few of my girl co-workers, are Sagittarius. Now, with me being Capricorn and Sun, it's a bit unusual for those types of relationships to have any type of, what can I say, compatibility to them. But as the summer goes on and I continue to gather up the courage to record and post those that will find themselves listening to such shenanigans, you'll find out that I am a weird one. I have always danced outside of the lines. I am what many would call an emotional vagabond. And so, yeah, I truly am led by the inner voice and the beat that dwells within. So I've never been one to be in a crowd, never been the popular one per se. And so I've always found myself in situations that were outside of the norm. And having a Sagittarius mom, real sassy one, by the way, and then having twin brothers, I have what I like to like to joke about to say that I've been thrust into the fire and grew up learning firsthand how to handle those with a more fiery personality. And it hasn't always been great, okay? Fire's hot. It should burn. Yes, indeedy, Uncle Petey. It burns. It burns. But in hindsight, my relationships have been purification. It has been warmth. And it has been true understanding with the hard stuff. My relationship with my best friend now is of golden quality. Now, let me just note that's from my perspective. Which, interestingly enough, I will say, what's so amazing about our dynamic is that on the flip side, from his side of of life, he has been like this Capricorn magnet. We giggle about it quite often because he has been thrust into Earth on immeasurable levels. Yeah, and before I go down a rabbit hole, let me stay focused. But I did want to preface with that to say that Chiron was on my mind, on my heart, heavily in my thoughts this morning. That led me to seek out more and become one with it, so that I may better understand me. Also, to just add in and just add the ingredient into the pot for a little flavor. My Mercury is 22 degrees Sagittarius. So that I'm finding out has a lot to do with who I am and why I'm here. And in part two of Operation Clean Slate, which will be uploaded in the next couple of days, I will unpack that a little further. So please stay tuned. So let's get into Exhibit A. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives violently, I always screw that word up, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. It has been maturing as one of my proverbs. I can't wait to I get to the point in life where I can recite this from memory, that it will become truly infused in my mission and my declarations of independence. Because for me, always wanting to be accepted and not mm, not wanting to be left out, and trying to mend or heal my sense of not belonging. And it's funny. It's a bit ironic, actually, because those who have been an acquaintance with me, and I try very hard not to say those who know me, because the only one who truly knows me is me. I pick and choose what parts of myself I reveal to what people. But those who been an acquaintance with me, especially those uh, that have a bit of longevity with me, always tend to be quite surprised when I say I struggle with acceptance. And I'm a bit of a people pleaser. Um, I'm also finding out from pulling my birth chart that me having a Virgo moon has a lot to do with that as well. And that some of it is my natural instinct, and some of it is because I am in a phase where I am trying to heal the woundedness of my journey with Chiron. And those who are not familiar with the story or even the mythology of Chiron, trust me when I say YouTube is full of interpretations. The best one that I have bumped into is a lecture done by Jessica Garfield Cabrera, Kabbara. And my apologies, I didn't actually write down the official YouTube title for the lecture, but I bumped into it just by typing in Chiron in the search, which is Chiron. And as a matter of fact, I will remember to put the link in the description box so that you can treat yourself to the lecture. And it isn't even a full lecture. It is roughly about 36 minutes of an entire series. So they really focused on her portion of the lecture that specifically spoke about Chiron. Amazing. Amazing. So I invite you to visit with that piece. The next piece that is part of my invaluable collection is a little book called Living a Charmed Life by Victoria Moran. This book here is such a delightful read. It is broken down into, let's see, it's broken down into 50 short essays laid out quite nicely, if I may say so myself. And let's see, usually when I buy books, I like to put the dates inside the cover when I first begin to read it. And so I first got hold of this book February 9th, 2013. And it's bookmarked and dog-eared and it's a little roughly at the edges because I absolutely love this book. Now, I'm not going to go into reading any of the essays, but I do want to highlight the first 10. And so if you do get a chance to get your hands on this book, pay close attention to the first 10 essays, including the introduction. The introduction is a delight as well. So, essay number 1, know that you are worthy. Number 2, start a serendipity log. Number 3, enlist your inner epicure. Number 4, and your inner chaperone. Number 5, wake up and smell the morning. Number 6, expect the best. Number 7, give something away today. Number 8, behold the 1,000-pound gorilla. Number 9, admire all your aspects. And number 10, make life-charming decisions. It has just popped into my mind that maybe I will do a follow-up segment that just speaks to the first 10, and maybe I'll share some of the bits and pieces that I've highlighted and circled and some of my notes that I have put in the margins to bring clarity to the situation, definitely during eclipse season, which brings me to I'll call it a personal disclosure that it feels like I may need to reiterate as I continue to post segments and yeah. I was going to say as well as my blog entries, but I've had my blog for a while, so anyone who goes visits there pretty much know that that's my den and all types of wacky, wondrous things, dwell. Which, while we're here, I welcome you to visit the blog, which is on behalf of the story.blogspot.com. With that said, if you're listening to this segment, as well as maybe listen to the other two that I've posted, you may be wondering, okay, so why is it blacked out? Mainly because I have gotten into the notion that it truly is not about the messenger. We've become very sensationalized with how someone looks, what they have on. And it really truly now is a thing where folks get in front of the camera and they have to do their hair and put makeup on, and I'm just not about that life. I really truly am about the scholarship. And I figure that that is what is to be paid close attention to. And so when those come to visit with my content, I really would like for in front of you to be a journal, a notebook, pencils, highlighters, index cards, dictionary, because I do aim to take you on a ride. I also aim that at the end of this ride that you have something to take away that will, when it does re-enter your mind space, provoke you or confirm, intrigue you in some kind of way. I'm learning that that is what I came here for. I came here to share my experience so that others may experience. Now, I say that running the risk of a bit of misunderstanding. So let me make it clear. I'm not here to convince you, convert you, change you. No, I'm not about that life either. I'm here to share and offer up some of the ahas that I have had the pleasure of experiencing myself, and how I know that it rattled my paradigms, and all of it was not fun. Let me just make that clear as well. All of it was not fun. But at the end of it, it gained me the impressions and the gratitude of feeling chosen, if you will. It was a sense of security, as if, and not even as if, but I'll just say it, seeing as that I still am of human mind and body. So as if Saturn and Mercury knew beforehand, of course they did, that my sense of, or should I say, my arrested sense of belonging was going to be in need of repair during this specific time in this specific place for very specific reasons. Because of that, we can easily flow into what I am now calling metaphorical moments of paradox and proverbial propositions. Yes, it's a mouthful. If we want to simplify it down, it could be equal to the council with the oracle. And if we need to give motion picture reference, I'll give you the meeting with the oracle and Neo, When Neo first walked into the oracle's kitchen and she had him look at the sign above the threshold that said Temet Nos, Latin word which means know thyself. Because that's what we're here for, really, truly. We are here to experience life at a high vibration. Now, what's very interesting is that when we're born, we are not already equipped with the knowledge to how to accomplish this because each individual has its own intricate details and mystery that it must go and seek. It's not called a mystery for nothing, folks. It really is a mystery that has to be sought after. And it comes in clues and cues, and it's cloaked and it's daggered. And only the one in the arena, only the one in the arena will have the foresight, the insight to be able to unlock its mystery. And no one else can unlock your mystery, just like you cannot unlock anyone else's mystery. Now, you may walk along together or alongside each other, but everyone must do their own work. Like my best friend say, work on you. Yeah, we now, and well, not we, but I'm the one who did it. I think he's sick of hashtags, but yeah, I'm the one who attached the hashtag to it. Work on you. And so the counsel with the oracle is what I am on a daily basis working to incorporate so that I may have counsel with the oracle as soon as I wake up. Now, the trendy tone for it these days is called meditation. But even just hearing that word, it naturally makes me say, well, what is that exactly? Meditation just seems to be such a formal base of religiosity. And I beg to differ. It's a very pro-personal, informal conversation with that which dwells within, with the celestials that are connected to the ultimate chaos, which I like to call golden chaos nowadays, even though, yes, I still have respect and reciprocity for the triple black. Which is why we're here right now, well, which is why I'm here recording this. And if divine timing works as I have put in the inquiry for it to do so, that those that find themselves in the timeless space of hearing this, it's why you'll be here. Walking the Black Mile, down in the valley, courtship with self, clarity in the darkness, which is so fitting as we cross the threshold of eclipse season. With that said, my first provocation earlier today was the mystery. Well, not really a mystery for me because I've been researching it here and there, but it popped up this morning, the Sphinx and the riddles of the Sphinx. I've always been intrigued with the fact that she's half woman, half lion. And then in addition to that, If you didn't answer the riddle properly, yeah, she would devour you. Straight like, yeah, she would just knock your ass off. And it's just like, what craziness is this? And I will honestly say right now that on many occasions, I have equaled my persona to that of the Finks. Mainly in close relationships because I am such a protector of my time. Yeah, it's a Saturn thing. But I am truly a protector of my time. So those who I give my time to, it has to be of some sustenance. And I'll just sidebar really quickly, just really quickly. I want to say maybe the brink of 2009. So yeah, roughly 9 years, about 10 years now. Um, I have been growing in the pet peeve of guys who walk up to you and want to engage into some type of flirtatious back and forth, or try to kick some kind of game just because they like the way you look. I can't stand it because technically we're strangers. Walking up to me and want to throw me a couple of compliments, tell me I'm cute, tell me you want to get to know me a little better. It's so lame. And then we wonder why we have such hardships, why it fizzles out so soon, and this kind of thing is because you walked up to her leading with the physicality. Like, yeah, that is so, it's fleeting. It's fleeting and it will never do you any good because and I always used to tell my sons, what look good ain't always good. Like, so pump your brakes when you want to roll up on a girl because she cute. I have always been one that romance was to happen after a certain level of context and content could be exchanged and shared. And I know it's kind of hard to imagine for some folks because that's the way it's been done for so long. And sometimes we hit on relationships or friendships or acquaintances where it's a good thing that you bumped into this person and you exchanged light talk and then you exchanged phone numbers and it actually blossomed into something beautiful. But truly, that's only like 15% of the overall ratio. So, because of that, in those instances, I really do turn into the fakes because I have always seemed to bump into these guys who are talkers. And I'm talking about they will talk for a 35-minute stretch. And yeah, yeah, don't ask no questions, not intrigued by anything, just want to run their mouth. That burns me up. It lights my fire. And that's with women too, like I just don't really truly hone in too well with the chatty Cathys. I just don't. And those who are Cathys, don't take that the wrong way. That's just, because I actually have a few Cathys that I love and adore, and they are not the chatty types. That's just the one that rolled off my tongue at this moment. And I have to say, in reflection, that's the moment when I really do turn into the Finks. So this morning, got up, the Finks was on my mind, went and of course, wonderful Google and clicked it in, and the story of and I always get twined up with his name, um, Oedipus, and the Sphinx of Thebes, and it's really an incredible story. Greek mythology, for those who are intrigued by the origin of such story. And so we'll go into brief story time right now, which will um, satisfy my coach by story quota for the day. So the way it's told is that back in those days, to counsel with the oracle was like we go to the therapist these days. And so word went out to the parents of Oedipus that when he was an infant, I mean, a little guy, wasn't even walking yet, little guy, that he was doomed and that if the kid grew up, it's going to be the demise of the king. Did I say that his parents was the king and queen of Thebes? Let me just say that. So Oedipus was the was to be the dejected child of the king and queen of Thebes. Okay, so the king, Oedipus' daddy, decided that he wasn't going for it, so he ordered his wife to get rid of the kid. And so she goes, finds this royal servant, tells him, hey, here, get rid of the kid. And I know it might sound a little harsh right now, the way that I'm paraphrasing, but the more and more I get into Greek mythology, it seems like, yeah, that's the way they was doing it back in them days. They had no problems with, yeah, they would sacrifice the kid if the oracle said, hey, bad seed, get rid of it. As the story goes, the servant goes out into the woods, and let me just slow down for a minute to say that the way that the kid was to be sacrificed was that they pierced his feet, threaded it with rope, and yes, you heard me correctly, meaning they stuck a hole in the baby's ankles and put rope through the holes. The baby was to hang upside down until some beast or something came and ate it. Okay, so servant couldn't do it. Servant was like, yeah, I ain't with this type shit. So servant took the ropes out of the baby's pierced feet and gave it to a shepherd. Shepherd couldn't take care of the baby, so baby got handed off again, I think one more time before the baby ended up being adopted by another king and queen in a neighboring kingdom. This king and queen never told Oedipus that he was adopted, so he grows up to be this wonderful prince, full of courage, full of esteem, slaying this and slaying that, and like was really the hero for the kingdom, for that kingdom, the adopted kingdom. But then he gets wind of the oracle's premonition, if you will. And so, in summary, what it said, which is what made his original parents get rid of him and leave him to die, was that he would eventually kill his dad and marry his mom. Ain't that some bullshit? Well, lo and behold, Oedipus is now in his early 20s or so, and He gets word of it that his fate was that he was going to kill his dad. He's thinking the adopted dad, because no one still had told him he was adopted. So he figuring that he was a true blood heir to the adopted kingdom. Okay, so to make sure that that he didn't like meet fate, he left the adopted kingdom on the road, wandering, became a vagabond. His daddy, which he does not know is his daddy, he's a complete stranger, met him on the road, kills him. They got into some scuffle, something went down, and Oedipus kills his dad, his biological dad. But like I said, he does not know it's his biological dad because it happened outside of the kingdom, the king's kingdom. I know I'm kind of getting confused with it now because I can't remember Oedipus's blood dad's name. Anywho, Oedipus completely forgets about this run-in with this so-called stranger out in the wilderness, and he makes his way to Thebes. And there was some other stuff going on that drew him to the city of Thebes. But at the gate of Thebes, there we go. So there was this Sphinx, this outrageous Sphinx who was terrorizing Thebes, and it was, the Sphinx of Thebes, who was, killing everybody. And she was just rambunctious with that shit. So they called in Oedipus because he was the strapping young prince of the neighboring kingdom. And it's like, come handle this. And he was like, greatly, I'm on my way. So he got there. And so that's when the Sphinx posed him with the riddle. And so he answered it. And so through a few other details that's escaping me right now, he earns the throne to Thebes. Now, mind you, no one in Thebes knows anything about the fact that the servant did not actually go through with leaving the baby for the beast. Lo and behold, he inherits the kingdom and he marries his mom. He has no idea it's his mama. And it was weird because she was much, much older than him. But as the tale goes, she was still vibrant. And so they literally had 4 kids, 2 girls, 2 boys. Okay, all of that's going on. And then a plague hits the kingdom. And it's like, okay, so what's the deal? Oracle comes back into the situation and say, hey, listen, this plague is going to continue until you find out who killed the original king. And once you find out who killed the original king, then you will have, it will be revealed how, and you have to ostracize them or kill them or do whatever you're going to do. And then the plague will stop. That's the reason why this kingdom is now having such hardship. Okay, couple more ticks down into the story. It's identified. It's identified that Oedipus is the original king's son. It got so bad, Mama ended up like hanging herself. She just couldn't take it. When she found out that Oedipus, now her husband, was the original son that she put out in the wilderness to be killed, she couldn't take it no more. She offed herself. And so as a result of that, as a result of Oedipus' mama and wife, he plucks his eyes out because he just couldn't dare, he couldn't deal with the whole thing. Such a tragedy. That was not the way that I was looking to start my day. But I had to remember, we're talking about paradox and proverbial propositions. And we're talking about the mystery of self. And so I say all of that to say that there will be times when the oracle or the nature of oracle will reveal something that is very, very hard and dismantling. And I even say that now with the thought in the back of my head, thinking that there is still more to come to my hardships just because I'm a kid of Saturn. Like this whole living your best life and this ultra positive nature and all of that kind of stuff, it ebb and flows for me. And if I run from it, then it means I'll be running half of my life. If damn it beyond that. Hard truths is part of my makeup. With that said, still being stunned by that story, trying to figure out how it all relates to me, because I'm telling you, that's a hard story, baby. Talk about paradoxical for your ass. That's a hard one. That's a hard one. And I'm wondering that as my weeks continue to unfold, that that seed, even as miserable as it was presented, it has some type of metaphorical, deep lesson attached to it. Because at the end of the day, eclipse is for us to be able to pull out of the darkness that which we need for these particular moments. So then it dumped me right into the story of Prometheus and Pandora. Dumped me smack dab into it. And which, as well as the Finks, this particular story I have been investigating and researching in my free time, mainly because Prometheus is aka Uranus, which is aka Saturn's daddy. So, me wanting to do my astrological family tree and understanding the celestials by which I am attached to, and being able to give deep respect to, I want to say, my invisible, my collective subconscious, like where I fit in the grand scheme of things. So Prometheus, in my book, has never been a bad guy. And I know, the story holds these trigger words with he stole the fire and gave it to humans, and the stolen gift that Zeus decided that because it was stolen, and because Prometheus had already given it to the humans, that they now could see good and evil, when I'm finding out that it was actually the Kundalini energy is what Prometheus gave to the human. So Prometheus gave the human the passion and sexual desire to reproduce. It inside that fire was also the pleasure of such acts. And so it gave the humans the authority. It gave them the authority to reproduce without having to ask permission to the gods to reproduce. It gave them their own will to reproduce. So of course Zeus got mad and chained him to the stone, and yeah, there you have it. He's in agony as each day repeats itself. And so, while he's chained to the rock, getting his, is it his kidney or his spleen? Getting his internal organs ate out every day in such agony for it to heal itself overnight. And then in the morning, the big bird comes and eat out his insides all over again. Sheer torture, right? So, Prometheus' brother, Zeus, decides he going to create the woman and send her to Earth with this box. And so inside this box is all of the treachery of human life: poverty, sickness, jealousy, malice, etc., etc. You know the list is long, right? So, in all of this wicked horror, hope is also in that box. And what amazes me is how when I ask someone about Pandora, the only part of the story they know is that it's this wicked woman who unleashed the wickedness onto the earth. No one ever talks about the fact that also in that box was hope. And that hope is the only antidote to all other that was unleashed. Everything else that was unleashed, hope is the deciding factor, is the solve. It's the only soothe to all of this savageness. It also is quite amazing at how many logical beings would want to stomp out hope or want to speak of it as if it has no value when it would. And I'll slow down just a minute because I get quite excited when I talk about this particular paradox, because hope stands its own. All of the other horrors, there were multiple horrors, just one hope, powerful enough to deal with all of those. And it doesn't surprise me that when hope is spoken of, it's always spoken of in a divine feminine energy. In its natural sense, it's of femininity. Hope is never spoken of as a guy, as a dude. And no shade to the fellas, but just, putting it out there. So, how this all connects into Chiron is that, and I really hope that you find Jessica's lecture, because she lays it out. She lays it out. She begins the lecture with speaking about Chiron and how he was half man, half horse, which is how he became the avatar for Sagittarius zodiac, and how he brewed up a poison that was ultimately shot into his own leg, I want to say by Hercules. And because he was immortal, the poison didn't kill him, but it wounded him, and he had to deal with this wound for the rest of his life. He decided that since he was going to be in suffrage for the rest of his immortal life, which is forever, that he would change places with Prometheus. And so as the story goes on, he actually did. And because of this, he transcended into the heavens and now became part of the cosmos. And there's actually a star constellation that supposedly you can see, well, not supposedly, but you can be identified as Sagittarius zodiac. And I know I'm really truly giving you the hood version, but that's all I got. If you would like to see for yourself, I'm dropping the references as I speak. Go check it out. I encourage you to go check it out. This is the seed. This is the seed for you to go and venture out. Okay. So Chiron being the wounded healer, which is also said that because and he wasn't even human. Let me back up. He was part God, part some other magical. He wasn't like the regular human horse. Like it was part God, part magical, like unicornish type. Yeah. So, yeah, and I can't even go back to say like the I think his mom or somebody, one parent was the god that looked like a human, and one was the magical creature looked like a horse. Yeah, they got together. So there you have it. And so his breed was called Sentient. So he was a Sentient. He was also known as an oracle and an astrologer. So the God part of him had him level up above the rest of the other sentients who were more beastly like. But he rose above, his intellect became enlightened, and so he was able to mix potions and elixirs, and so he would be the consultant for certain potions when going into battle, and many of them, all depending on how they were used and mixed, could be poisonous, and so they would dip their arrows in much of what Chiron would produce. And so he was teaching Hercules how to be in combat with such arrows, and Hercules accidentally shot him. And so, yeah, there you have it. From the lecture, I'm going to read real quick what I gathered as a result of all that I just spilled out for the last hour. And then we're going to wrap it out. So the way Jessica lays it out, which I will preface with her saying that those that are on the path to know thyself, and they are seeking wisdom, meaning the firsthand experience of combining um, knowledge with encounter. So knowledge plus encounter equals wisdom. And so she lays it out to say that those that are on those paths, succinctly, we will be bowing down to the mystery of life. That as we dig deeper into the mystery of it, we will be left in awe with how it all connects and relates, and truly give the human its sustenance, its soul sustenance. So she goes on to say that Chiron, the wounded healer, that the very thing that was considered poison was also considered the elixir. But it really truly all depended on the brew, the recipe of how, he mixed and matched certain things. Almost like he was a magical mixologist. And so that there's a fine line between the elixir and the poison. And this is where I will flip it into the metaphorically speaking. This is when we're going to dive into the moments of metaphorical lesson. So now we have officially entered the realm of metaphora. And so we look at life. We look at life as a diamond. Right through the middle is the fine line. Top of the line is the elixir. The elixir. The bottom of the line is poison. And our relationship is what determines if it's going to be healing or if it's going to be horrific. If we're going to accept it, if we're going to ignore it. We're going to face it, we're going to shun it, we're going to run from it. And that our concentration upon it, like how we apply our thoughts and our feelings to it, determines whether it's going to be elixir for our healing or poison for our detriment. And she goes in to say, our participation is what shapes how it ultimately comes out or comes through. which is something that we hardly ever can predict. Like we literally have to, as I said, take the knowledge that we have and blend it with the encounter to receive our own wisdom, which will ultimately unlock or lighten up the mysteries of our own journey. With that said, she also pointed out that Saturn has hard aspects of itself. And she gave a combination of numbers and invited those in the class that was listening to her to track the narrative without getting caught up in the concrete particulars, right? And the moment she began to unravel these numbers, it took me back to certain years in my life. And so the hard aspects of Saturn itself, remind you, we're still talking about Chiron as the wounded healer, as well as the paradoxical moments within the meeting with the Sphinx and Prometheus and hope within inside Pandora's box. But for me, as a Capricorn sun, well, I'll slow down. For me, having sun sign Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, who is the son of Uranus, it struck out to me to write these numbers down, especially. And the magical part about it is, once I had it written down and paused the lecture and just started to reflect on these particular years, it gave much understanding to a lot of mystery that I hadn't dared contemplate beforehand because I didn't have anything to go with. I didn't have anything to relate it to. I didn't have a decipher. So the first one was 6 to 8 years. Second one was 13 to 15 years. The third was 20 to 22 years. The last one was 28 to 31 years. And when I looked at it like this, major stuff was going on within all pillars that was mentioned. And so the challenge was for me to be able to reflect what was going on with me within those years without getting caught up in the concrete particulars of the persons, the places, or the situations. That I had to allow the intrinsic communications to reveal a deeper lesson. And that they were going to be hard truths, but me allowing those types of truths to wash over me, that at some point certain mysteries would be unlocked with regards to my psychological and my emotional makeup. Absolutely powerful. Absolutely powerful. And all of it is to gain the combination of self acceptance. And that patience is truly my virtue. And as long as that stays intact, that the rising of my vibrations and the balancing between my thoughts and my feelings are imperative. They are imperative, they're inevitable. Meaning they are important and they are sure to mend and heal. And that the value of who I am versus what I do is also within that schematic that will also get healed. She made a very interesting point by saying that she is the daughter of patriarchy. and that she has daddy issues. And she also pointed out her Saturn is, if I'm not mistaken, is conjunct to her Venus, and that her dad left at a very early age. And so that always had her trying to fill a void in some area dealing with some guy. And that it was always detrimental, always just massive fuckery going on. And so it took me back to me. Now, my dad didn't necessarily abandon, but he wasn't around on a daily basis, which left me tender about a lot of things, left me insecure about a lot of things. Almost to the point where, as I reached into my mid 30s, I would pretty much want to scratch your eyes out if you was someone who was dismissive and threw around the tone about somebody having daddy issues. I had to get a grip on myself though. And as I became a certified coach in social and emotional intelligence, I truly started to unpack that. Like, what was that about for real? And any of us who are walking the black mile, the majority of us have daddy issues, male, female included. It's the generational curse of the black man. We all have daddy issues. And I know I say that in exaggeration because there are some that grew up having a very wholesome, nurturing, non competitive relationship with their dad. And I commend them. As a matter of fact, I'm in awe of them. And I'll take you one even further. A lot of my decisions as a young woman, as a young adult, stemmed from me wanting to make sure my children didn't have daddy issues. But I'm real keen on the heels of those that want to be dismissive or sarcastic around someone having daddy issues. Because, I mean, if you really think about it, we are right now in prime time to be able to soothe and heal that. Especially if you're one of those that truly believe that the absenteeism, the high chronic absenteeism, was truly by design and it was of social strata. In my cultural denomination, anyway. And I know we can hone it down to the individual being absent and and it's his fault and hanging around and fuck him and he's this and he's that and that and the third. I get it. And what makes it so interesting about my particular existence is that I am the one who walked the black mile of being the deadbeat dad. And in one of these segments, I'm really going to unpack that to give humble understanding to what was driving me in those days and why I was so adamant about being out of the way, making sure that my children were not amongst those with daddy issues. Now, yeah, they may have mama issues, but because I believe in the ushering in of the divine feminine, I honestly believe that that will be rectified soon. That all injustices will be taken care of really soon. And I also truly believe that because I carried mine, that there is a certain type of embedded relationship within their DNA. That the moment we get back on track, it'll be like we were never separated. But because of my daddy issues, I walk this earth angry, very, very angry about a lot of things. And I did not feel that it was my privilege to throw that off on my children. If I was around my children on a daily basis, I would have robbed them of their esteem. They probably would have been very sensitive, very frigid, very timid little kids. They wouldn't have been free with their laughter. They wouldn't have been free with their expression because I would have stomped it all out trying to figure and find me. And that's not to make any excuses for my past, but that is to begin to stand up for what it is that I believed in that provoked those things to ensue in the first place. And so I know I'm getting a little crunk, so I digress. I digress. And so I'm going to close out this segment with bringing the attention to what Rebecca spoke about with regards to transit and rites of passage, emotionally and intellectually, and what it is that we are to do with these tools and these techniques once we gain the knowledge, and how we are to marry it with the encounter and the experiences, and how we are not to get hung up on the particulars. They are not to be included in our judgments anymore. A new day is rising, meaning that we now have access to determine how we feel and think about certain things. We are in complete control of our judgment and the cultivation of our perceptions. Minus, like when we get to judging, especially if we want to dip into feeling guilty about things or feeling ashamed about things, or wanting to put blame on one side of the fence versus the other side of the fence. I'm going to take up the challenge to do that minus the people, the places, and the situations. Which means no one is no one is to blame. Not even me. We have to flow with forgiveness, and it has to flow from us to them. That's the way it has to flow. From us to them. It has to flow from inside out. Now, whether they accept it or whatever it is they do with it is on them. Why? Because we are not going to get hung up on the particulars of person, place, or situation. Because everybody is healing, or at least, the majority of us, like the turnkey or the turnaround is now in full effect. And even with that being said, maturity takes time. Think about the fine wine. Like, it takes time to ferment. It takes time. But what can happen immediately is our shift in perception with how we are going to process that, and how we are going to take up the cause to be a little bit more patient with ourselves and others. And we're going to step into our butterfly effect powers, and one little teeny thing can affect a multitude of circumstances as we continue to, step into the mystery of self and walk this black mile, which will eventually turn golden. So I'm told. I'm still walking this thing, which is another reason why I feel quite proud of myself as I walk over the threshold of eclipse season, because even inside my birth chart, I am being urged to speak up outside of my private spaces. And I have this thing where I tell folks that it really is a hierarchy to the unfolding of me. If that's, acceptable to say. But no, it's time released. How about I'll say that? Yeah, we'll scratch the hierarchy part. But it's time released, and it's within proximity. Getting to know me is almost like playing chess. And so those that I am quite comfortable with, they really do get this jolly. Now they do. I have to say I'm graduating with being able to do my work. But now it's time for me to take the knowledge and marry it with encounter. And that's where my challenge is. That's outside of my comfort zone because I don't do well with strangers. And I really don't do well with exposing my inner parts into the abyss, into the unknown. But needless to say, that even with this segment here, especially if it actually gets uploaded and posted for everyone and whomever to take visit with it, then I will be stepping outside of my comfort zone and lending myself into being in the arena, which is another reason what I'll say right before closing is why I have disabled the comments, because we're here to share, but it really isn't like a contest. Like, I'm not on American Idol or no shit like that. So I don't necessarily need the judging of it. Like, you click into it, if you vibe with it, if you resonate with it, then you're welcome. If not, yeah, like YouTube is lofty with all sorts of content and context. So with all that said, I would like to say it's been real. Thank you so very much if you have lasted to this point. I invite you again to go and visit the blog, which is on behalf of the story.blogspot.com. And of course, if you are, um, what's the word? My words are escaping me now, but if you are able, you have an account with YouTube, you're welcome to hit me up and say hello. I put my email address somewhere in my on the about page or something. I'm not sure if that's able to be publicly viewed, but only serious inquiries, please. Please, please. I beg of you. Have no idea how well that's going to go because somebody will probably still try to, but at your own risk, I am the Finks. Riddles do apply. And I mean, I won't necessarily like, yeah, do all that old girl was doing, but I will say, approach at your own risk. But I do. I encourage inquiries that are provoking and that are either intellectually or emotionally savvy and that we can, extend the unpacking of all that I have mentioned today, as well as all that I will mention in the upcoming weeks. And yeah, I bid you blessings and strength and courage as you are in the arena. Walk your black mile until it goes golden. Namaste.